Dawson's Rambles. Hey YouTube, Dawson Writer here, and this is going to be my Power Rangers Day video that I had planned. It was going to be the only video for today, but then some news broke, and if other news broke that I don't know about at the time I'm recording this, this will get pushed to the day after. But this is my video I'm making. I usually make one on Power Rangers Day to celebrate it in some form. I thought about doing a video discussing my hopes for the future, if and when Power Rangers comes back, but I thought, you know, let's not talk about the doom and gloom and all the Hasbro stuff today. Let's do a celebration, because unfortunately a lot of the fandom is celebrating today by complaining again. So let's not do that, and let's talk about the things we like. For this video, I'm doing it sort of similar, like inspired by those old getting to know a fan videos where you would, you know, answer certain questions about like what got you into the franchise and your favorite things, and then you'd share it. People would share their favorites in the comments or another video. This is sort of similar. I'm going to be sharing my favorite things in various PR categories, you know, favorite Morpher, favorite theme, all that stuff. I made a list of all the possible core favorite things I could think of, and I'll encourage you to share yours in the comments. You don't have to share all of them. I'll put a copy and paste a list of the list I wrote of the favorites, and you can share some or all of them in the comments, or even make your own video. Okay, let's just start with the big one, favorite season. If you followed my channel for any period of time, you know my favorite season is Power Rangers in Space. It was just kind of the culmination of everything that I find to be special about PR, which is this crazy shared mixed universe they've made out of all these Sentai footages, and there's crazy storylines, and just kind of the heart of the original Power Rangers era and what it means to be a Power Ranger. It kind of just represents the core of what I like about Power Rangers in show form, so it still remains my favorite to this day. Now, favorite theme or opening theme, I had a hard time deciding on this because it honestly goes back and forth. Sometimes it's in space, sometimes it's Jungle Fury, that one has a lot of energy, sometimes it's Lost Galaxy, which I think is one of the most epic ones, and re-listening to them for this, it reminded me that a lot of the themes are just them repeating their name of like the show, and Lost Galaxy actually has some lyrics to it. But for today, I'm feeling Dino Thunder as my favorite theme because honestly it's such a unique one, you know, especially after enduring the purgatory of the Neo Saban being mostly Go-Go Power Rangers. I went on to appreciate like all the previous ones that weren't Go-Go Power Rangers, and Dino Thunder I think is the most unique. I don't even think it has the word go in it, or it only has like one, and I like how it feels the most unique compared to the usual Power Rangers theme pattern, while also standing out as unique and memorable. Now, favorite non-theme, like PR song, like, you know, character type song, fight song, which we only got through In Space. I'm going for Go Fly Win from In Space. That one just always gets me super pumped. Like, oh, Power Ranger fly, Power Ranger win, Power Ranger. Favorite episode, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and do two in a row. This is both my favorite episode and my favorite crossover or team up, which is Once a Ranger. I still love that episode. It still gets me pumped every time. Super exciting to see all the Rangers return with their theme music, with Adam's theme. So many epic fight scenes. It was one of the last times I was excited for team ups before it became such a regular, like, oversaturated thing. I thought the concept was just really cool of the villain, the setup, everything, you know, and I still think that it's way overhated in the fandom for what an awesome team up it is. And it's just one of the episodes I enjoy revisiting the most and takes me right back to that excitement when I first saw it. So it's both my favorite team up and crossover and my favorite episode, which are both questions on this list. Now, favorite era, you know, is personally the Disney era. Obviously, I have a lot of fond memories and nostalgia for the original Fox Kids era, but for me, I actually have the most nostalgia and fondness for the Disney era. I think it had the best, most consistent, most fun, most rewatchable seasons to this day. I loved the Jetix network and the energy of that. Of course, it was voiced by Davis. I mean, come on, it's the best. And, you know, getting to watch the reruns on there constantly, all the themed marathons and special promos, you know, even though they kind of put the franchise on autopilot, it was the most consistent and enjoyable the franchise was for me, and it still remains my favorite era. Now, favorite movie of the three, personally, if you couldn't tell, is the 2017 movie. I still love that movie. One of my favorite PR things of all time. I think it was a great reimagining of it. Honestly, it took a lot of what I personally love about PR and what would like to see from its future. It's very unfortunate that it won't get a sequel because I think there was such immense potential there with the cool ideas for the lore and the great cast, but it still remains my favorite of the three movies, far and away. Favorite scene? Now, I had a hard time deciding on this one. You know, there's a lot of really good scenes in Power Rangers, and like a lot of meaningful ones, you know, stuff like Tommy returning, the Once a Ranger scenes of the Rangers, you know, all arriving with their theme song. There's just so many different ones I went through, but I ended up settling on one that I think, for me, is one of the most inspiring, which is the final battle in Ninja Storm when the Core 3 defeat Lothor. You know, that we may not be Power Rangers, but we still have power. It's a cheesy line, but it doesn't feel cheesy in the moment, and it's such an inspiring and uplifting moment that, like, gets to the heart of what it means to be a Ranger even when you're not, or be a Ranger, I think. Not to mention, you know, it's funny because there's been talk about, like, civilian fights a couple times recently about, like, are they necessary or not? And I enjoy a good civilian fight, but I do think they're stupid when you don't need to. I think it's illogical to rush into battle without morphing for no reason, but I love the civilian fights where they literally can't morph, as it shows they're still willing to fight without their powers. And this is kind of the ultimate idea of that, of them willing to stand up for this final battle even without their abilities. Favorite comic? Now this one can be kind of broad. You could, for this category, just for anyone who wants to answer, you can choose like a graphic novel or a specific issue if you have it, or a storyline. I hate to be cliche, but I gotta go with Shattered Grid on this. It was just such an amazing event that I think was so well put together, and it just kind of was the culmination of what I love about the comics, is finally seeing a team of creatives take full advantage of this crazy universe that we've created, this crazy multiverse we've created. Not to mention, it wasn't just shallow stuff like, oh, a bunch of stuff standing next to each other. Like, yeah, we got that. But there was also a lot of meaningful character moments and a lot of meaningful character stuff for Draken, especially in the last issue. So it's kind of cliche, but it still stands as my favorite. I did want to give an honorable mention to the Time Force graphic novel, because Sins of the Future, because I think that one's really underrated and a really great successor to a lot of the themes of Time Force. Next up, favorite ranger is RJ from Power Rangers Jungle Fury. RJ is just such a unique and fun ranger to watch. There really isn't quite another ranger like him. Basically the closest thing we've ever gotten to like a stoner character, and he made for just a fun character to watch, but you could still take seriously, and he just brings such joy to the series. And favorite suit, you probably know this, especially based off of my, original Ranger design, is the white Drago Ranger suit from Power Rangers Dino Thunder, which, obviously most people can just tell it's objectively just an awesome looking suit. It really is. It's just one of the coolest looking suits. I've always been a sucker for white Toku suits. I think that there's just something cool about it, especially when it contrasts to a nice color like black. But this suit in particular I always thought was so well designed, because when you boil it down, it really is so drastically different from the rest of the team in a lot of ways, and yet it still fits in so well. And in addition to it just being cool, I always have to admire it for that. Favorite power-up is, for me, Jungle Master Mode. I think it's one of the coolest power-ups. I've talked about this in my thoughts on suits videos, but I like how, I still love the regular Geki Ranger Jungle Fury suits, and they don't feel boring or anything, but I like how, because they're so basic, they lend themselves to this power-up perfectly, to the point where when you see it, when they're all filled in with the white and the whiskers, it's like, oh, it was like it was made for this, and it makes this really cool contrast. I love stuff like the symbol in the middle with the white outline. It looks really, really cool. Not to mention, the Spirit Rangers ones also look really awesome. Even though I prefer the base form suits, the fact that we got those super modes for those as well, and we got them in live action, and they also looked amazing, just a huge bonus. Now, favorite Zord, this is like individual Zord, not a Megazord, and this is a little bit of a cop-out, but is the Red Racer Zord / Ace from Beast Morpher / Go Busters. If you followed the channel, that was kind of like a mascot in the background for a while, which I don't know why I haven't had him in the background, but that's one of my favorites. It's a little bit of a cop-out again, because his individual robot mode is basically a Megazord, but it's one of my favorite Red Ranger Warrior mecha. Not to mention, in general, it's cool that it's a triple changer that has a car mode, this cheetah mode, and then also the warrior mode, which is still just one of my favorites. And then favorite Megazord is actually the Astro Megazord. I just really like the Astro Megazord. It has such a good retro aesthetic, but it doesn't feel dated. I also love how unique it is, being one of the only Megazords, I think, one of the only main Megazord for us in PR that's just one piece, talking about main Megazords, and not a bunch of different Zords. It's just one ship, and it's one color, and it's so unique, and its design holds up where it feels retro, but it doesn't feel dated, and it still remains one of my favorites. Or my favorite, obviously. Next up is favorite Morpher, and I actually have to go for, I thought about this a lot, and I had a hard time deciding, but I think I have to go for the Mystic Morpher. I think it's one of the coolest, most unique cell phone morphers. It's one of the most sleek looking ones. If someone pulled that out in public, it would still look funny. But it looks a little bit sleeker than most of them, but not to mention the creative idea of how it becomes a wand. It just works so well. It's so simple, yet so effective that they can use it like a wand and put in the codes. I think it's one of the most creative and unique morphers, and I really like it a lot. Favorite morph call has to be Ninja Storm Ranger form. I think it hits that sweet spot of cheesy yet awesome at the same time, and it just kind of rolls off the tongue nicely, and they each have their own variations of it. And I love that morph where they have it all at the same time, where it's like Ninja Storm, Thunderstorm, Samurai Storm, Ranger form, ha! And it works so well. I also love that group Morpher Dino Thunder where they end going ha ha ha, like it's a laugh. Then favorite weapon, which there's a lot of good candidates for this, but I have to say it's always been the Quasar Saber. It's just such a well-designed weapon that has this excellent legendary mystique to it. Not to mention, I love the significance of them in the story and the idea that the Rangers' powers are sourced from these Excalibur-like swords, and they're just so well designed. They're so simple yet so awesome. I really hope that one day, if the Lightning Collection stuff comes back, we can get some complete selection type stuff from, or even better, if Bandai ever makes a memorial edition for whatever they're called in Ginga Man. I just want an actual like true to size one, like just like we get with the Resoldier ones. Favorite villain, this was a tough one, as there was a lot like I wanted to include for this, such as Megazord, who I think is one of our best original villains. If I'm being honest, even though his story's cliche, I've always had a soft spot for Korag. But I have to give it to one for now because I think it's one that deserves special attention that doesn't get it, and I'm also going to have an honorable mention. But I'm going to go actually for Master Org, which might be an unconventional choice, but last time I rewatched Wild Force, I really had an appreciation for what an underrated villain he is. Like, he has a very dark backstory, and especially in a series where they're often redeem human villains to one degree or another, this was a very rare case where you had an irredeemable human villain, which I think was driven home further by the whole idea of Cole being able to sense beings' hearts. And then, you know, they kind of okayed him to be able to kill orgs because he couldn't sense their hearts. And the fact that it was a human being that didn't have a heart, I think just reinforced how evil he was. And it was a really surprisingly dark story, and I think just an underrated villain. But for a close runner-up as one that might take over as my favorite, or at least top 5, is Death Ranger recently. I think they're one of the coolest ideas for a villain. I mean, just their design is cool, but also just in general, the concept of this character that, because of the way that their hive mind species work, doesn't understand death, which is what leads them to becoming this sort of master of death and resurrecting things, not to mention them also having a little bit of a psychotic break because they're separated from the hive mind. I think there's a lot of really fascinating aspects to their character, and I'm glad that they're back in the recent Darkest Hour event and hope they get more to do. Next up, speaking of Death Ranger, this leads right into favorite comic character. This might be an unconventional choice, and there was a lot of good choices, and I went for like a character that's original to the comics, but I have to say it's Grace. Grace, who is the first MMPR 1969 Team Suicide Squad Red Ranger. I think she's just such a fascinating and unique character. The idea of this character that got pulled in to this haphazard mission that got her team killed from Zordon's first pick, and just got her foot in the Ranger world door one time, and then immediately like stamped out her own place in that world, and kind of takes on this almost like Amanda Waller-esque role. You know, she's softened a little bit recently, but it's been such a fascinating character to watch with so many unique aspects to it, and it's been one of my like sleeper hit favorite characters that I just really like a lot. Favorite non-Ranger character, meaning like any regular reoccurring character that's, you know, obviously not a Ranger, I had to go with Dr. K. Just such a great performance and a fascinating character, and as people have mentioned ad nauseum from RPM, one of the most dark and unique backstories, and yet is still able to have this amazing performance with this delivery that can make her a very fun and funny character. Not to mention, despite the fact that she's so young, you can believe that she's the mentor to the team despite her, you know, appearance, which is just a testament to the actress. But yeah, Dr. K is easily one of the best PR characters of all time. Next up is favorite comedic character slash comedic duo. As much as I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for Bulk and Skull, I wanted to give this to Cassidy and Devin, because much like all things in Dino Thunder, it was kind of like MMPR like 2.0 done right, where they were clearly inspired by the idea of Bulk and Skull to a degree, even having some similar slapstick bits, but they were allowed to actually show their other comedic talents, and they both had a character arc. Now, of course, Bulk and Skull did, but they got one within the first season they were in, and I think they're a highly underrated duo. And like even some of the stuff that, looking back, was really weird, I actually thought was pretty funny, like that Disco Devin episode. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to them for being underrated. Oh, favorite henchmen, I had to go with the Quantrons. In general, I'm a sucker for like original stuff, and the Quantrons do look a little cheapo, but they're also pretty cool designs. They're very simple, yet very effective and very cool. Favorite monster of the week. I only included this because I think it's a fun one for other people, because to be honest, I'm not a big monster of the week guy in general, but I did pick one, and I hate that it's MMPR, but to be honest, those are primarily the only ones I can remember. And I'm going with Pumpkin Wrapper, a bit of a generic choice, but I did enjoy his sort of quasi-recent renaissance in recent years with, like, he got the lightning figure and the pop vinyl, and he was in Hyperforce, and he is a fun villain to watch, not to mention as a huge Halloween spooky season type of guy. I love his design, and I like putting out like the Pumpkin Wrapper figures out for Halloween, so that had to be my choice for this. And then I'm ending it on favorite mentor, kind of a weird one to end on. I arguably should have ended on like favorite season or whatever. But favorite mentor, I thought about this a lot because there's a lot of good mentors that I wanted to pick. And maybe it's a little bit of me reflecting on, after JDF's passing, how much I did like the Tommy character. But I actually went with Tommy for this, as Dr. O and Dino Thunder. I mean, I think there's a lot of really great mentors. But I think the thing for me that set him apart as a mentor, which I was really thinking about when I was doing a ranking video on all the versions of Tommy, was the idea that, you know, not only having a mentor that was experienced as a ranger and stuff like that allows you to have an interesting perspective. And you have that with other characters, such as like Doggy Kruger, which of course he became a ranger later, but you know what I mean. It's a similar situation where they have similar field experience they can bring to the table. But with Tommy, it was unique because not only was he a ranger and brought that perspective to the team, but also it's the fact that we, the audience, got to see him during those times. You had that extra connection to knowing what his experience was like, and then getting to see him put that knowledge in practice was really cool. Not to mention, I think that was his best version as a sort of leader as well, in terms of like, Tommy was an okay Red Ranger, but I think he really came into his own as a mentor figure in that. So I think that was the most unique and kind of meaningful mentor role for me. But that is my list. If there's anything else I forgot, a type of favorite thing you want to list, go ahead and list it in the comments. But like I said, I encourage you to either list in the comments or make your own video. I just have some fun for Power Rangers Day and, you know, the rest of the celebration to talk about our favorite things. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.